Hi everyone, welcome back to this video, and in this video I would be giving you some information on the types of non-probability sampling. So for many days we would have been seeing about what is non-probability sampling and what are the different techniques, and now here we'll be seeing about the different types of non-probability sampling techniques. So generally there are 5 techniques and they are very easy techniques, so I'm going to be covering all the 5 in this video. Now let's get into it. So to give you a gist of this, there are 5, which is convenience sampling, snowball, consecutive sampling, judgmental, and quota sampling. So let's get into it one by one. So the first one is convenience sampling. So this is a technique where the samples are collected from the population based on the researcher's convenience. So to give you an example, surveys collected in malls. Now, all of us, we would have been to malls and we would have seen people collecting feedbacks and surveys from us. So that is a type of convenience sampling. So what people do is based on, maybe it can be the organization who wants to conduct that research, or it can be a researcher who's doing a research on his own and wants to collect information. So based on their convenience, they would be collecting information. So let's say there's this research company or a company, they just want to know what people think about their products. So instead of, going through campaigns, going through and reaching people everywhere, they choose to target the people who come frequently to the malls, because people coming to the mall, they would have a lot of interest in products. They might have purchased a product and they would have been using the product also there, so there are high chances that people, they can collect information from these people rather than trying to reach out to the wider range of people. So that is what they do, and according to their convenience they collect feedbacks from you and they do their research. So that's a type of convenience sampling. So if you see here in the image I gave, you have these people coming up to you in the mall. So that's their first convenience level. So they collect surveys and feedbacks from you while not reaching the outer or the wider range of audience. So that is the convenience sampling technique. The next technique is consecutive sampling. So consecutive sampling is a technique where the researcher picks a single observation, it can be a group of observations or sample, and conducts research over a period of time, analyzes the results, and then moves on to the next sample. So if you see here in this image that I have here, so let's say it can be one person or it can be many, but I've just represented it as one person. So it can be anything. So the researcher first, interviews or surveys or conducts an analysis on the first sample or an individual or observation, and analyzes and gets insights from this particular sample. So if the researcher feels that still he hasn't, he doesn't have enough information to draw conclusions, then what happens? The researcher will move on to the next set of samples. Okay, so he takes the second sample, analyzes, see if results and conclusions can be drawn. If not, then again to the next sample. So there's this form of consecutive selection of samples and analysis. So that's about your consecutive sampling. So if you see here in this technique, the researcher gets to work with many samples and gains more insights till they reach a conclusion. So till they reach a conclusion, there's always a selection of samples and that goes on. So that's consecutive sampling. The next one is snowball sampling. So snowball sampling is used when samples are not easily identifiable due to a small population, and it can be for various other reasons. So for example, let's take the concept of referrals. Now when we hear the term referral, maybe it can be like for referring people to get certain promos, or it can be referring people for any job vacancies. So these are the type of referrals which is nothing but snowball sampling. So similarly, in research, there are certain situations where the samples that you need to collect will not be readily identifiable, or it will be a very small population. Let me give you an example. Now there can be certain researches that are done on different areas. It can be a research done on maybe people who have certain addictions. Okay, so at that time when if you want to openly you want to collect a survey, or you start asking people, not everyone, or rather the chances of people responding back would be very low, okay, because that's certain sensitive issues, okay. So at that time what people do is they follow this snowball sampling technique. So the researcher might know of certain people, okay, in his close circle who have who may have some addictions. So personally the researcher would approach them and would get some information, because personally approaching them, gaining a trust, people tend to open up. And after that, the researcher, in order to expand his sample, the researcher tells those people, okay, to refer other people, similar people who might be in the same situation or condition, who might have the same problems. So at that time, by those people referring other people, the researcher gains more samples for his research. So if you see here in this image, first the researcher targets or goes and meets certain people or reaches out to a set of people. Then those people start reaching out to other people, and as people start reaching out to other people, you would find that your sample keeps increasing, which becomes beneficial for the research. So that is snowball sampling, and this is a scenario, some scenarios where this technique is used. So the next sampling is judgmental sampling. So if you see in this technique, the researcher picks samples that seem to be suitable for this research according to the researcher's knowledge, ideas and experience, okay. So for example, I'll give you this example so you can understand. For a research, let's say on cricket, or people's choices or their preferences or what they like about cricket, what they know about cricket, a researcher chooses to survey only members part of a cricket team or a sports club. So this is the idea that the researcher has. So if you see here, the researcher feels, rather than going and surveying the entire population, for my research, my objective on understanding people's knowledge and preferences about cricket, the researcher chooses only the people who belong to sports clubs and to cricket teams. So that's totally judgmental, and that is what judgmental sampling is about. Choosing samples based on the researcher or one's own experience, knowledge and ideas, okay. So that's judgmental sampling. And the next type of the sampling, the last one, is quota sampling. So in this technique, the researcher creates a sample that will represent the population under study by allocating quotas for each strata or group, okay. So let's take this example to understand this sampling technique. Let's say the researcher wants to do an analysis or study on the students' preferences and career goals. So you have a particular region on which the researcher wants to do this research on. So let's say there are a population of students of 4,000, and the researcher wants to allocate quotas based on different criteria. That which means he wants a flavor of students from various backgrounds. So he allocates quotas. So how he allocates quotas is, this is just a example. So let's say students, he divides them into different stratas. So if you would have seen the stratified sampling technique, you would know what is a strata, which is nothing but a category of similar people or people with similar characteristics or attributes. So students are divided into school and colleges. Under school you have special and regular. Under college you have full-time and part-time. And under each category it's divided into genders. So here the researcher allocates quotas for each strata, where he'll be getting a flavor of the entire population. So here you'll be getting males from special schools, you'll be getting females from special schools, males from regular schools, females from regular schools, females from full-time and also from part-time colleges. So indirectly the researcher is allocating a quota which would represent the more or less the population based on the ratios. So he allocates quotas in order to get to various stratas in order to create his sample. So this last level over here, these students would be the sample on which the researcher is going to work on. So this is quota sampling, and this is all about the non-probability sampling techniques. Now with all this, as the name goes, non-probability sampling, it means that not all observations in the population have an equal chance of being selected. So out of all these techniques, you would have seen that there's a lot of selections going on and not all have a chance of being selected. So you would ask yourself, or you would even ask, why then go in for this non-probability sampling when not everyone has a chance of being selected? The sample being selected is not the exact representation of the population, and also because of this certain people being selected, there's going to be also ambiguity. Then why go in for this non-probability sampling? Now, in research, there are certain scenarios where people or where researchers go in for these techniques. Sometimes it might be due to constraints such as a short time frame or limited budget. But most of all, there might be certain situations or scenarios where you have to perform a research where accuracy is not a very big concern. Okay, so you just want to do a high level research, and then maybe further on you might want to go into more detailed research. So just for that initial research, that initial hypothesis kickoff, people go in for this non-probability sampling because it's very easy to conduct, it's very cost efficient, and also it saves a lot of time. Where accuracy, since it's not a big concern, this is very much useful and easier. So that's why people go in for this non-probability sampling techniques. So this is it about this video. So if you found this informative, please do give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe, and also do share your feedbacks. Thank you.